All right, so get ready because we're doing a deep dive today into motivation,
Oh, fun.
personal growth, and how to level up your life.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring Jay Shetty's interview with Rob Dial.
Okay.
And Rob Dial wrote the book Level Up. He also hosts the Mindset Mentor podcast.
I've heard of that one.
And they get into some really interesting stuff like why we let fear hold us back, you know?
Mm.
Have you ever felt like fear is based on illusions?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
We're going to unpack that.
It's like a trick our mind plays on us.
Totally, and we're going to talk about how much our self-image determines what we achieve and what we don't achieve.
Right. It's like we set these limits on ourselves without even realizing it.
Exactly. And then the big question is, how do we break free from procrastination and actually take action?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question.
Rob Dial has some really insightful answers. And he suggests we need to uncover a deeper why
Okay.
behind our desires. So it's not just about setting goals. It's about understanding the purpose that drives us.
I like that.
Yeah. And that's what makes this deep dive so powerful. It's not just about listening. It's about you actively applying these insights to your own life.
Right. Taking action.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's tackle this fear thing head on. I think we can all relate to having goals and dreams, but then fear kind of creeps in
Oh, yeah.
and paralyzes us.
Absolutely. It's like a wall.
So Rob Dial, he distinguishes between primal fears, like when you're facing actual danger,
Right.
versus intellectual fears,
Okay.
which are those imagined threats to our ego or our status.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you know, it reminds me of that Sadhguru quote.
Oh, yeah.
He says, you can't overcome something that doesn't exist.
So true.
Isn't it powerful?
It is because we spend so much time worrying about things that might never happen.
Right. It's like we create these monsters in our minds.
Exactly. And they hold us back from going after what we really want.
So how do we deal with these intellectual fears? Because even though they might not be real in a physical sense, they certainly feel real
Oh, they do.
in our mind.
They can be debilitating.
So Rob Dial lays out this 3-step process for dealing with them.
Okay, I'm
It's
listening.
awareness, practice, and repetition.
Okay,
The first step, awareness, is all about recognizing when you're in a fear state.
got it.
So what are those telltale signs for you?
Let me think. For me, it's definitely a racing heart, sometimes sweaty palms,
Yeah.
and just like this wave of negative thoughts,
Yeah.
That feeling of being overwhelmed and wanting to avoid doing anything.
It's like that freeze response.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of us, we try to power through those feelings.
Right, just ignore them and hope they go away.
But Rob Dial's saying we need to actually stop and acknowledge them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so then the second step is practice. And this is where you intentionally shift your focus to a positive outcome.
Okay.
So Rob, he uses the example of starting a business instead of fixating on everything that could go wrong.
Right, all the what ifs.
What if you visualize success?
Okay.
Really immerse yourself in that feeling of achieving your goal. It's interesting because a lot of the advice out there focuses on overcoming fear by dissecting it, analyzing it.
Yeah.
But Rob seems to be suggesting that we shift our focus entirely.
So it's not about conquering the fear, it's about replacing it.
Exactly, with something more powerful.
I like that.
And then the final step is repetition. You have to consistently rewire those thought patterns.
Oh,
It's like building a muscle, you know?
that makes sense.
Rob shares his personal story of overcoming judgmental thoughts.
Oh, interesting.
He noticed that he would have these like automatic negative reactions to certain people.
We all do that.
Yeah, and so he made himself find 3 things he liked about every single person he judged.
Wow.
And over time, his first thought became more accepting.
That's amazing. It's like you can actually reprogram your brain.
It is pretty incredible, right?
It is.
And it kind of makes you wonder what fear is holding you back right now.
That's a good question.
And how can you use this 3-step process to break free?
I love that.
It all comes down to taking action. It's not enough to just understand these concepts. You have to apply them in your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the power of why.
Okay.
I think we've all experienced how fleeting motivation can be.
Oh, yeah. Comes and goes.
It comes and goes. Sometimes it just disappears completely.
Poof.
And this is where Rob Dial's approach is really interesting. He believes that lasting change comes from being driven by a deeper purpose,
Okay.
a strong why that fuels everything we do.
Interesting.
He uses a great analogy to illustrate this. He asks you to imagine your chances of making $1 million.
Okay.
And then he asks you to imagine that the lives of your loved ones depend on you making that $1 million.
Oh, wow.
suddenly your odds seem a lot better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because your why becomes so much more powerful.
Right.
It's no longer just about the money. It's about something much deeper.
Yeah, like a real emotional connection.
Exactly. And Rob calls this uncovering the real driving force behind our goals.
I see.
And he has this 7 levels of why exercise, where you start with a surface level goal and you just keep asking why.
Oh, like peeling back the layers.
Exactly, until you get to that core motivation.
That's cool.
He gives an example of a client who wanted to earn $100,000.
Okay, nice round number.
Right? Seems pretty straightforward. But as they dug deeper, they discovered that the real desire stemmed from this need to protect his children and give them a sense of security.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of how our initial goals are often just stepping stones to a much deeper purpose. So I want you to think about this for a second. What's your driving force? What's that deepest why behind the things you're working towards?
Yeah, that's a good one to ponder.
Right? Sometimes we're so focused on the what that we forget to ask ourselves why.
Exactly, and the why is so important.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next topic is all about how our self-image can actually limit our potential.
Okay, interesting.
Rob calls it the identity trap.
Ooh, catchy.
And he mentions Jim Carrey and how he almost lost his own identity while he was method acting as Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon.
Oh, yeah, I remember that movie.
He went so deep into the role that he started to question who he really was.
Oh, that's intense.
Yeah, it's a pretty extreme example of how we can get stuck in particular self-image.
Right?
It's like we cling to these familiar patterns, even if they're not serving us anymore.
It's like wearing clothes that don't fit anymore.
Exactly. And a lot of it comes down to our most repeated thought.
Our most repeated thought.
I love this concept. All our failure and all our success in life is based on that one thought that keeps playing on repeat in our heads.
Wow. Think about that.
If you're constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, guess what?
What?
You're probably going to believe it.
Yeah, you're right.
And Rob Dial says we don't have to identify with those thoughts. We can actually observe them without judgment.
Okay.
Almost like watching cars go by.
Interesting.
It's like creating some space between us and our thoughts so they don't have so much power over us.
Right.
And here's the really empowering part.
Tell me.
We can actually choose which thoughts to focus on.
Really?
We can replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations that reinforce a more empowering self-image.
So we can retrain our brains to see ourselves in a new light.
Yeah, it's almost like we're giving ourselves a makeover.
I love it.
But a mental makeover.
Even better.
Right? Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you can say, I'm capable and worthy.
I'm capable and worthy.
She feels good just saying it.
Right. And that brings us to our final topic for this section.
Okay.
Finding peace in a world that's constantly trying to distract us.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's a challenge we all face, right?
Absolutely.
And Rob Dial actually shares something really personal here. He says that his drive to achieve was initially fueled by a desire to fill this inner void. He thought that if he just achieved enough, made enough money, got enough recognition, he would finally feel content.
Right. I think a lot of us fall into that trap. Totally. We chase after external validation and achievements, thinking they're going to bring us happiness.
It's like we're always searching for something outside of ourselves.
Exactly. And we're always looking for that destination where we can finally stop thinking and just be.
That sounds nice.
But maybe true peace comes from something different.
What do you mean?
Maybe it comes from being fully present in this moment, right here, right now.
Never thought of it that way.
And Rob actually uses this really fascinating analogy of a polar bear and an impala.
Okay, a polar bear and an impala.
Releasing trauma through physical shaking. It's like they instinctively know that they need to process their emotions physically.
Interesting.
They don't try to suppress them or ignore them. And it makes you wonder if we've been doing it all wrong.
In what way?
We're so conditioned to avoid negative feelings.
Yeah, we're told to just get over it or toughen up.
Right. But what if those feelings are trying to tell us something important?
Like,
What if they're trying to guide us toward healing and growth?
that's a new way of looking at it.
So what if instead of running from our emotions, we learn to embrace them?
Embrace them.
It's about recognizing that our bodies have an innate intelligence.
Okay.
And they know how to heal if we give them the space and permission to do so.
That's powerful. Yeah, it's like he was saying, if I can just achieve this one thing, then I'll be happy.
And, it makes me think maybe that's what so many of us are doing.
Chasing that external validation.
We're chasing after this idea of success, thinking it's going to bring us lasting fulfillment.
Yeah, but what if it comes from somewhere else entirely?
Right. What if it's not about the destination?
What if it's about the journey?
Maybe it's about the journey. Maybe it's about being present.
Being present in this moment.
Right here, right now. And speaking of perspective,
Okay.
Rob also talks about the importance of stillness.
Stillness?
He says that God, the universe, life, whatever you want to call it, speaks in silence.
Wow.
So we need to create space
To hear it.
to hear those whispers of wisdom.
Quiet the mind.
Right. But it's not always easy, is it?
Not always, no.
He talks about how he used to experience anxiety in silence.
Really?
He felt this urge to stay busy.
To avoid uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. We live in a culture of busyness.
We're constantly bombarded with distractions, always connected, always on the go.
It's hard to just be.
Like we've forgotten how to just be.
And Rob says he's learned to embrace that discomfort.
The discomfort of silence.
Yeah, to see it as part of the healing process.
I love that. And remember that analogy he used about the polar bear and the impala?
Oh, yeah. Releasing trauma through shaking.
It's a powerful reminder that we need to allow ourselves to feel our emotions.
Instead of trying to push them away.
Exactly. Because when we do that, we're actually preventing ourselves from healing.
We're running from our own shadows.
Right. What if we turn around and face them?
Face our shadows.
What if we acknowledge those parts of ourselves that we've been trying to hide?
That's scary.
It can be scary, but it can also be incredibly liberating.
I can see that.
And Rob actually brings up this idea of internal family systems.
Okay.
This concept that we have different parts of ourselves, each with its own needs and motivations.
Interesting.
And instead of trying to change or suppress those parts, he suggests embracing them, understanding where they came from, and learning to work with them.
Work with the different parts of ourselves.
Yeah, it's like acknowledging that we're not just one monolithic self.
We're a collection of voices.
We're a collection of different voices, different experiences, different desires.
And sometimes those voices are in conflict.
Exactly. But instead of trying to silence them,
What if we listened?
what if we tried to understand what they're trying to tell us?
That's a good point.
Rob even talks about how his ego, his desire for success and recognition, can actually be a powerful tool.
For creating positive change.
So it's not about getting rid of our ego altogether.
It's like learning to work with it.
It's about channeling that energy
Yeah.
in a more constructive way.
Integration, not annihilation.
I love that.
Me too.
It's about recognizing that all parts of ourselves, even the ones that we might consider negative, have a role to play.
And sometimes those seemingly negative parts are trying to protect us.
Right. They're trying to keep us safe from getting hurt.
Even if their methods are a little misguided.
So instead of judging them,
What if we approach them with compassion?
curiosity and compassion.
That's a powerful shift.
Now, Rob also talks about how his drive to be busy
Mm-hmm.
was actually preventing him from being fully present in his relationships.
Now, that's interesting.
It's something a lot of us struggle with.
Yeah, for sure.
We're so focused on achieving, doing, producing
Yeah.
that we forget to simply,
Simply be.
and it's not just about being physically present.
There's more to it.
It's about being emotionally present as well.
Right.
Really listening to the people we care about, being empathetic, creating space for genuine connection.
Connection is so important.
And, you know, this whole conversation makes me think about this Eastern concept of oneness.
Oneness.
This idea that everything is interconnected.
We're all connected.
And Rob talks about the importance of connecting with his soul, his true self.
And how that's brought him peace.
Yeah, he describes it as this journey of letting go of attachment to his physical body and his ego
Okay.
and embracing a deeper sense of purpose.
Purpose and meaning.
And it's interesting because he says, what I do is significant, and at the same time, it's totally insignificant.
Wow.
He acknowledges that while our lives have meaning, we won't be remembered forever.
That's humbling.
It's both humbling and liberating.
Yeah.
It's like it frees us up to pursue our goals.
With passion.
With passion and dedication, but without getting caught up in the pressure to be perfect.
Or to control everything.
Because ultimately, we're all just a small part of something much bigger than ourselves.
We are.
And Rob ends with this beautiful thought. He says, everything in nature grows only where it's vulnerable.
That's beautiful.
Just like a tree doesn't grow where it's hard and thick, we too must embrace our vulnerability.
In order to flourish.
And here's something else that really struck me. Rob believes that all the problems in the world
All the problems.
stem from a lack of self-awareness.
Really?
He says that if everyone took just 5 minutes a day to practice self-awareness,
5 minutes.
imagine the positive impact that could have.
That's powerful.
It's a call to action.
It is.
It's about recognizing that real change starts with each of us.
It starts with us.
Becoming more aware of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
And how they impact the world around us.
So I think a natural question here is, how do we actually apply these insights to our own lives?
Yeah. How do we take action?
It's one thing to hear these concepts, but it's another thing to put them into practice.
Right.
Rob really emphasizes the power of asking why.
Asking why.
He encourages us to dig deeper, to go beyond those surface-level goals.
To uncover the true motivation.
And don't worry if you don't have all the answers right away.
Oh, okay.
It's a process of discovery.
A journey.
It's about being willing to explore, to question, to be open to new possibilities.
I like that.
So another key takeaway
Yeah.
is the importance of challenging those limiting beliefs.
Those negative thoughts that hold us back.
We often get stuck in these patterns of thinking that don't serve us.
We do.
And Rob suggests observing our thoughts with detachment,
Detached.
recognizing that we are not our thoughts.
We are not our thoughts.
And we have the power to choose which thoughts we give our attention to.
That's empowering.
So a practical tip is to incorporate a daily affirmation practice.
Daily affirmations.
Choose a positive statement that resonates with you and repeat it to yourself throughout the day.
Okay.
You might be surprised by the difference it makes.
I'll try it.
And finally, remember the importance of presence.
Presence.
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life.
Oh, yeah. Constantly distracted.
But those moments of stillness, of being fully present in our bodies, are where we find true peace.
Peace and connection.
Whether it's spending time in nature, meditating, or simply enjoying a cup of tea in silence.
I love that.
These moments can have a profound impact on our well-being.
They can.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's about making small, consistent changes
Small change.
that help us live more consciously and intentionally.
Intentionally.
And I love how Rob puts it. He says, it's about bringing more fun into life. When did we lose the joy and wonder we had as children? How can we reconnect with that childlike spirit?
That's a great question.
Approach life with more playfulness and curiosity.
Our playfulness.
And sometimes the most profound lessons come from the simplest of things.
Like what?
Like Rob's father's message to him, live your life with courage, love, and laughter.
Courage, love, and laughter. I love that.
It's a beautiful mantra.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
What one step will you take today to apply these insights and level up your life?
Yeah, it could be something small, you know?
It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing.
Like maybe just noticing one negative thought and replacing it with a positive one.
Right. Or taking 5 minutes to just sit in silence.
That's a good one.
Maybe it's reaching out to a friend
Yeah, connection.
and having a real conversation.
It's about taking that first step.
Even if it's a small step.
It's still a step.
You know, hearing Rob's story really highlights that this path to unlocking our potential, it's not about the destination.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey, and it's a journey that's unique to each of us.
Absolutely.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
No, there isn't.
It's about discovering what works for you, what resonates with your soul,
What lights you up?
what lights you up,
That's a good way to put it.
and ultimately creating a life that aligns with your deepest values.
Your values and aspirations.
So keep exploring, keep learning.
And keep leveling up.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. I tech